Hey everybody, welcome to Indie Wrestling Experience. I am here with the promoter, owner, and all-around everything makes it go man for Ragin Pro Wrestling, Rich Buchholtz. Rich, welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Absolutely. So we're here on the heels of last night's show, Destiny 4.
Yep.
How do you feel now after it's all over?
It was a very long night, but the crowd loved it. I had so many positive reactions. We drew about 325, somewhere in there, so it's a good crowd.
Yeah, how's that as compared to a normal crowd for you?
Normal crowds are about probably 225, somewhere there, usually.
You get that pretty consistently at most of your shows everywhere?
Yep.
Now, I came out here last year for a show that was in
Green Bay.
Yep. Here in Manitowoc.
Yep.
Where you guys also run shows in
Wapaka.
Anywhere else?
We've done a show in Shiacton before. That was an outdoor show. That was an all women's event.
Mm-hmm.
It was a different crowd. We drew about probably like 115 people. But that was actually Envision 2, and we're in Envision 3 tonight.
Envision 3 tonight, yes. And that is featuring, among others, former WWE superstar Swoggle.
Yes.
You've had him here before?
I have. He has worked in Wapaka before, yes.
Okay. So thinking back on last night, a huge main event, Ken Anderson versus Zilla Fatu. You've had Ken here before.
I have.
How's it working with Mr. Anderson?
Well, he is phenomenal. He is very attention to detail. We've done radio before. We did WAPL, Rock and Apple out of Appleton. Cutter and Laura Lee do a phenomenal job. They're very in-depth with asking questions and just letting us speak.
Right.
So
that's great. And then he was facing Zilla Fatu, who's never been here before.
Correct.
But you had a lot of conversations with him leading up. How were those? They
were very good. Very professional. He couldn't have been nicer. Like, we were actually in talks of getting him back.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on his availability.
Right. I can tell you as a fan watching last night, his charisma is off the charts.
It is.
And they put on quite a show.
Yeah.
At that show last night as well, Britt McCarthy, your heavyweight champion, successfully defended against Shane Hills.
He did.
Is he on the card tonight?
He is. He is facing JDX.
JDX, who last night defeated Garrison Creed.
Correct.
Okay. So I want to know, how about as far as running the show, Destiny, any hiccups, any troubles that came along, anything that was difficult from a promoter standpoint?
You're always going to have a little bit of hiccups, especially on a Friday, because people work until 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. and then you just got to worry about them getting to the show on time and changing lineups, stuff like that.
Right. Now, last night, the lineup didn't seem to change too much from what you advertised. Is that a lucky night for you, or is that on average?
It was pretty lucky. Like, we had to change the order a couple times, but like the only person that had to cancel yesterday was TW3.
Now, I want to compare that. I want to go back and have you think about your very first show. You and I talked before this that I would love to do an interview with you in long form about all of the aspects of being a promoter, and we can do that another time. But thinking about last night's show and then looking back on your first show, when was your first show?
My first show was August 28th of 2021.
Okay.
That show, we were supposed to have Eric Rowan, or Eric Redbeard is how he is on the indie scene, and he ended up having to cancel because he had a movie that he had to do. We were supposed to have Chelsea Green on that show. She canceled for NWA Empower. We were supposed to have, I think who else? We were supposed to have Karam on that show. So like we had to change matches, and the main event was ended up being Jake Stuffing versus Rohit Raju from Impact, which was really good match. And like when we first started, we weren't even taping yet. So like people that saw it were only the people that were there. It never got showed on cameras or anything.
Right. So how is that? That's your first show, all of these cancellations. What's your mindset at that point?
Freak out.
Yeah.
Because you're pretty much, back then, we did, everyone paid them cash. Now a lot of people are prepaid. So it's not as much of a stress thing. Because like back then, you're just banking on the door. And we were using Eventbrite at the time, and now we use Square for tickets online, and then we use Clover at the door.
Okay. And that's worked out better for you?
It has. Eventbrite is a company out of England, so then you got to do out of country taxes, and they take 10%, where Square and Clover take like 2.8 and 2.9, so it's a huge difference.
Okay. Is that something you switch out pretty much after the first show, or did you sort of learn that?
I learned the hard way March 26th of 2022. We had Chelsea versus Diana. We had Ace Austin here. We had Rohit Raju versus Xavier Walker. We had, I don't remember the other matches, Kenny King versus Silas Young. And everybody pre-bought, but with Eventbrite, you don't get paid until 5 days after the show. So you're just sitting there scrambling. And I'm like, never again.
Right. Now, you mentioned a moment ago that Rohit Raju stepped into that match in that first show.
Yep.
Was he already on the card, or did you call him and substitute? How did that work?
I had to substitute him in.
Okay.
Originally, the main event was going to be Eric Redbeard versus Jake something, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then we brought in Rohit, if I remember correctly.
Right. As a promoter, your first show or any show, really, what is that like as far as what kind of strategies do you have when you have a last-minute cancellation or some sort of last-minute change to the show? What kind of things have you learned? What kind of strategies do you have to fill those gaps in the last minute?
So when I first started, it was a freak out about everything. Now you just kind of assume that people are going to cancel, and then you're happy when they don't. Mm-hmm. It's changed a lot. Our quality has become higher, so you're going to get cancellations because of AEW, Impact, pay-per-view, whatever. Like, I mean, we're lucky tonight to have Heather Reckless here, because if Impact was running, we wouldn't have her.
Right.
So.
And then like someone with Zilla Fatu as well.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know anything at all, but from the speculation you see online, people are talking about him being added to the bloodline at any minute, which I don't know if that's going to happen. But was that in your mind leading up to this event the whole time?
We definitely heard about it.
Right.
He did plug some stuff, which made it more difficult, because then I get a lot of fans that'll message me back, "Are you sure he's going to be there?" I'm like, you can only go by the word.
Right.
So.
So when you have a substitution like we talked about a minute ago with Rohit in that first show, and as you learn moving forward as a promoter, is that do you keep guys on your back pocket, but I mean, do you have guys sort of lined up, or do you talk to people in advance like, hey, just in case, are you able to be here if I need to call you last minute, or is that something you just wait till the last minute and
I
make
just
that
wait
call?
till the last second, because I kind of feel if I make them come in, they should get paid for it. And I just try and stay away from that overall. Like, if we go from 9 matches to 8, that's okay. Mm-hmm. I usually will book heavy because of cancellations. There's been times where we booked light and we had cancellations, and it's a freak out. And there's been times where we booked too heavy and everybody came and we're like, now the show is 11 matches.
Right. You mentioned earlier that you prepay a lot of guys now.
Yep.
And that's something that you learned over time or adjusted over time.
Yep.
Does that have to do with, I noticed that you bring in, I've been to a lot of indie wrestling shows and a lot of promotions, and I've noticed that you bring in a lot more big name talent from outside than a lot of others do, mixed with local talent.
Yep.
Is that prepaid? Was that part of that? Is that because these bigger name guys want to be paid?
No, that's actually me doing it.
Okay, that's you doing it.
That's me doing it. A lot of them will ask for a deposit, but they won't ask for full pay. They just want to make sure that when they get here, they're not going to get stiffed.
Right, but you pay it up front just to make sure.
Correct.
Give them that confidence that you're not going to.
So, like, if they cancel, they have a legit reason for canceling. They're not canceling because they're worried there's going to be 55 people in the crowd.
Right. Now, as you probably know, I think I've mentioned to you before that I'm a lawyer in my daytime life. So I am very curious to find out about legal issues that come up in running the shows. And the first thing that pops into my head from a conversation we had before that I'm dying to hear more about is music rights.
Yes.
What kind of complications are there with music rights running a promotion?
Okay, so music rights have changed a lot. When I broke into wrestling as a ref, like back then, you didn't hear about that. Like, people were using Incubus, Limp Bizkit, whatever, and there was never an issue. Now, because of social media and putting it on YouTube, these artists are suing over it because they don't want their song to be labeled to a wrestler.
Right.
So we had ASCAP hit us up and like, it's $134 per show that you have to pay, and like a lot of these people now have their own music. So like, we're paying for 2 people, 3 people sometimes. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things where it's better to just have it be set.
Right. And as far as the music is concerned, so you mentioned that that's an interesting point. You mentioned that some of the bands don't want performers associated, or them associated with performer songs. Is there a specific issue that came up with that, or is that just something in general?
The one I heard for the grapevine was Cal Hero had problems with it. He was using Wham, and it was getting linked to him instead of the band.
Oh, I see.
So then they took it down.
Right.
And yeah, because he was using it for OVW for a while.
You're not someone who has run any kind of regular TV or YouTube for this promotion, right?
My old camera guy, Will Choi, did do a YouTube channel. But that was it. It wasn't like we weren't getting paid per se for it. He might have been, but I was not as a company.
Right. I mean, you're not having kind of weekly TV of any kind ever, right?
No.
So I guess I'm aiming back at the music rights issue, even with no TV and not posting things on YouTube. In fact, I noticed that the videos Will posted on your YouTube page don't have entrances. Is that part of that?
That was me. That was my call.
Was that because of the ASCAP issue?
Yes.
Okay. And do you think these performers or these bands that are filing these complaints, these ASCAP complaints, are they finding you because people are posting on social media, or was it anything that you were doing that they were finding?
So a little bit of what I was doing, because like I'm big on lyrics, so I would post a song and have the lyrics behind it, so it's a flag. And like I didn't know at the time, and then like we were using Tessa Blanchard's of the world, so like she's getting views on social media, and then that's causing a red flag.
Right. Wow, that's interesting. So as far as we talked about the music rights. Any other legal issues that come up? How about with your guests, your fans that come in that pay for tickets? Do you ever have any legal issues with?
I've never had one so far. We do have an LLC, but like we've had it before where a person was blind and got hit with a chair, and it's just one of those things where you're like, well, we thought she'd move. It's like, well, she's blind, she can't see you.
Right.
Like, no pun intended with John Cena, but you get it.
Absolutely. Anything else that comes up legally, like anything else you had to contact a lawyer for or talk to anybody about?
I have not, luckily.
Any other stories you hear from others? Maybe about the guest issue or the music issue?
I've heard of stuff from promotions that will run like backyarders or whatever, where you could have an issue if somebody gets hurt. All of our people that use a trade, I will not use a backyarder. So.
Right. Okay. And so now you were talking a moment ago about Eventbrite. And you also used, you're using Square.
I use Square for the website.
Did you use anything else in between? Are there any other ticket facilitators that you've dealt with?
I've just dealt with those three, just Eventbrite, Clover, and Square.
Okay. Well, as I said before, I would love to sit down with you and go over a lot of these things more in long form. I know you're about to run a show today. Tonight is Envision. Any issues coming up tonight? Anything?
We had a couple cancellations. Missy had to cancel. Heather Monroe had to cancel. So the Fatal Freeway match that was going to happen, or triple threat match, I should say, was going to be a number one contender. Whoever won could pick whenever they wanted to be in the championship match whenever they felt. Instead, those two aren't here, so Maggie Lee is going to be in the RPW Glamour Championship match versus Lily and Jordan Blue.
Oh, great. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to this show. Last night's show was fantastic. Looking forward to tonight's show and looking forward to talking to you more in depth about these promoter issues in the future.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.